Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public, the people here in Nevis, of course, those in our sister St. Kitts, those in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to one and all who listen throughout the Caribbean region, to our friends and family in the United States and Canada, those in the United Kingdom. We know we have regular listeners in those locales, but we also, of course, express our greetings to those who are elsewhere in the world who tune in via the marvel of the World Wide Web. Some are listening and viewing via YouTube and via Facebook, and some are doing it the old-fashioned way, listening via radio at 8:60 a.m. This is Mark Brantley, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. This is straight talk across the narrows, and we have a lot to unpackage tonight, and so we are hopeful that you will have your calls ready, you'll have your opinions ready, and when the lines open, you'll call in and share, of course, whatever it is you have to say. Let me start out by again expressing condolences to the family of Estelle Lewis, who was laid to rest today. I apologize publicly to them. I've done so privately, that I was only able to attend for a few moments because I was in the court all day today dealing with this election petition matter, something that I'll get to in a minute. But let me take a moment at the top of the show to express my ongoing condolences to her husband and her children and the entire family, a very prominent and important family there in the church ground area. Let me single out my very good friend and brother Gary Liebert, known to all as Rockers, and of course Kenesha Lewis, who works now, Kenesha David, who works at Daniel Brantley. Those are two of the children that are particularly close to me, and with whom I've had a very long relationship, and so I would want to extend condolences to all who mourn. And today at the brief attendance that I did at the funeral, I really recognized that Estelle was someone who was loved by so many, because they always say that you get an indication of how people feel once you have a funeral, because so many people from so many walks of life would have been there to bid farewell and to support the family in their time of bereavement. And so I join with the multitude in expressing my condolences and prayers for the family of the late Estelle Lewis. Let me move from that moment of sadness to a moment of greater joy. My dear brother Jerry Brantley is celebrating a birthday. He does so tomorrow, the 16th of February. Jerry, if you're listening, I want to say happy birthday to you, brother. I love you. I want you to have a wonderful birthday. Every time I see you, it looks like you're getting younger and younger, and so I hope and pray that you have a good birthday. And I want you to know that Bernie and Lloydie and the whole family has asked me to say happy birthday to you as well. I hope they're listening, and I hope you have a good time. I hope to see you soon under sad circumstances as we seek to lay my aunt to rest, but nevertheless it's an opportunity for family to see each other, and I hope to see you soon. So brother, if you're listening, happy birthday to you. I join with the universe in wishing you God's continued blessings, and I pray and hope that all goes well with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an interesting 24 hours on the island of Nevis, and as they say, as the world turns, as the politics turns here, it has been fascinating. Let me start with perhaps the easier of the two issues, and that is the fact that today the High Court heard the applications that have been filed by all of the respondents to strike out the election petition filed by Patricia Bartlett against me and filed by J.D. Keynes against the Honorable Spencer Brand. Those election petitions were filed challenging the results of the elections of December 12th, 2022. And the judge today heard arguments from all sides. We had legal luminaries appearing, such as Anthony Astafan, senior counsel, who is well known. We had a Dr. Dorset from Antigua. Both of them appeared via Zoom. And then locally we had, King's Counsel. We had locally King's Counsel, Delano Bart appearing, along with, of course, Brian Barnes, who represented me. Brian was assisted by Leanne Wellington and by a young woman called Brianna Brantley. and all three were instructed by the firm of Daniel Brantley. They acted for me and they acted for Mr. Brian Barnes. I felt particularly proud because Brianna Brantley, as the name might suggest, is related to me. And she's in fact my daughter, and I marveled at the fact that this was once not so long ago a baby, and then a little girl, and then a young woman, and now of course she's representing her father. I had to say to her that I trust and hope that her fees will not be too exorbitant and that she will be gentle with me, given the fact that I have been there for her all of these years. In fact, someone suggested to me that if she were to be overly, how should I say, exuberant in her fees, that I should perhaps do a set-off, and I try to set that off against all the financial support that I would have given over the years, the college fees and all of that, and see where we work out. But that attempt at levity aside, it was a very proud moment for me as a father to have my daughter there as part of the team representing me. She would have, of course, worked in the background because she's not yet been called to the local bar, but I was very grateful for that. And I want to publicly thank Brian Barnes, Leon Wellington, and my daughter Brianna for the excellent, excellent work that they did today on my behalf, and certainly on behalf of the Honorable Spencer Brandt. We had also Mr. Dennis Merchant appeared, Mr. Sylvester Anthony appeared, and then for the petitioners, for Dr. Patricia Bartlett, we had Patrice Nisbet, and for the young lady J.D. Keynes, we had Mrs. Cozier, Angela Cozier, and she appeared with Dr. Dorset from Antigua. So it was quite a packed courthouse. The public came out in quite some numbers to witness this, and it was a pretty robust hearing. The learned judge has reserved his judgment and will deliver judgment, he has said, at 9 a.m., I believe he said, on the 27th of February. And so in a matter of 12 days, we will have the judgment as to whether or not these petitions would be struck out. I want to be pellucid that our application to the court centered around the fact that these petitions were bad in law. And the court heard the arguments today, but I think I can say that it is a matter of trite law, that election petitions are a peculiar species of case. And just as there are special rules that govern civil proceedings and special rules that govern criminal proceedings, that election petitions have a particular rubric that governs those cases. And what we have argued from day one is that Dr. Patricia Bartlett and the J.D. Keynes were hopelessly out of time, that their petitions were hopelessly bad, and as a consequence they ought to be struck out, because the court ought not to waste precious judicial time dealing with petitions which were bad in law. The best expression I heard was from Anthony Astafan, senior counsel, today, when he posited that the court ought not to allow a nullity to move forward. And we heard a number of arguments from the lawyers for Dr. Bartlett and the lawyers for J.D. Keynes, basically saying to the court, well, you should be able to forgive all the breaches and all the irregularities in our election petition. In fact, one of the lawyers suggested to the court that the court should put matters right. I'm not so sure what you mean when you ask the court to put matters right. It was the job of the lawyers to put matters right when they filed. And so I want people to be very clear what is happening here. We have said that matters are not right, that these petitions are incurably bad. And to use the language of Anthony Astafan, Tony Astafan, senior counsel, that we ought not to allow a nullity. Nullity means nothing, and it doesn't exist. And that is what we are saying these petitions are. They are nullities, and we ought not to allow them to move forward. And so, the judge will rule. We await his ruling, and I would want to thank the court for the alacrity with which it acted. I believe it is a common and well-known fact that these matters, because they go to the very question of the legitimacy of the government, that they are dealt with expeditiously. And so the court would have done that. And so here we are. We wait until the 27th to get from the court its ruling and its position also in relation to costs. The judge did take some time to ask the parties to address the court on the issue of costs and whether or not, if our applications succeed, that Dr. Bartlett and J.D. Keynes should be asked to pay costs to us for putting us through this ordeal. And so it will be an interesting judgment, to be sure, and we look forward certainly to reappearing in court, God willing, on the 27th of February to see how the judge will rule on these critical matters. I won't get into any further details there. I will leave that for now. I'm hopeful that in the fullness of time we'll be able to come back once His Lordship has ruled, and we will have a discussion on that. Now, just so the public is clear, if His Lordship rules that these petitions are incurably bad, they are a nullity, that is, they were as if they were never filed, then the matters end there. The government therefore continues, and my election and the election of Mr. Brand, there would be no issue. If, on the other hand, the judge finds that what we say are irregularities and non-compliance with the law, that those matters are not proven, and that he is satisfied that these election petitions are good in law, then it means that he will then have to make directions for us to proceed to a trial of those petitions. And that is why it is so critical to hear what His Lordship will rule on the 27th, because it's either that these petitions are over, done, and Dr. Bartlett and J.D. Keynes are asked to pay us some money, or he may say that the petitions are good and must move forward to a trial, in which case we might be asked to pay Dr. Bartlett and J.D. Keynes some money. That is the way the legal system works. And so we certainly look forward to that judgment and to whatever the consequences of it might be. We, however, feel very strongly, and based on the arguments advanced today, very strongly, that these matters are a nullity and should be struck out, and that we bring an end to this unfortunate effort by the NRP to continue the campaign season. And so, we'll leave that there. I dealt with that matter first because I thought that it could be dispensed with very quickly. Again, we thank our legal team and we thank all who are involved today as we seek to have these matters dealt with expeditiously, dealt with in a way that brings stability to the island of Nevis. Now, if one would have thought that the drama unfolding in court today was high drama, then the drama that was unfolding outside the court was even higher drama. We have all heard, in fact I have touched on it here on this very show, that the Nevis Reformation Party has been imploding, that there are tensions there that have burst onto the public scene, and they have a number of persons who, in my respectful view, have exacerbated those tensions. And that is what has been happening here. I would have, during the campaign season, indicated to one and all that there were tensions existing between the leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, and the deputy leader, the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Of course, my warnings were ignored, and the people of St. James, in their wisdom, elected the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, and the people of St. Thomas's, in their wisdom, elected again, for a second time, the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Well, as they will say, since that has happened, all hell has broken loose. And so, those two women have been at loggerheads ever since then. And I said on the last occasion that I mentioned this, that it was, in my view, a question of leadership. that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge has not exhibited any qualities as leader of a significant political party here in the Federation, and has shown us to the contrary that she's not ready for prime time. Now, why do I say that? I say that because, one, she has been uncharacteristically silent on this issue. I have heard only one feeble attempt to come to the public to tell us what we all would have known and seen over the weeks since the election of December 12th. Number two, she has allowed a pack of hungry hounds from her party to attack her deputy leader unrelentingly, or maybe I should say relentlessly, on social media, call-in programs and elsewhere. And I have said that any real leader, their first order of business was to say to these attacks and these attackers, stop. Allow us as a party to seek to resolve our issues internally. And attacking the deputy leader of the party in such a manner is unhelpful, and it, if you will, ends up airing inappy laundry in public. Now, I will tell you that as the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, that would not happen under my watch. Because I would say to all of the protagonists, whoever supporting Tom or whoever supporting Dick or whoever supporting Harry, are you cool out? Cool out. To borrow a term made famous by Denzel Douglas, simmer down, simmer down. Let us take some time internally to resolve these issues. But Janice has not done that. To the contrary, she has actively encouraged the attacks on her deputy leader. And one must ask, to what end? Because Janice must know that absent the support of Cleon, she cannot be leader of the opposition. The Constitution in Section 58 is pellucid. That to be leader of the opposition, that individual must have the support of at least one other elected official. And that the Governor General must be satisfied that that person has the support of at least one other member, that is elected member, who does not support the government. Put differently, the only way that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge can be leader of the opposition, as a matter of the Constitution, the highest law of the land, is for Cleon Stapleton Simmons to signal to the Governor General that she supports Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge in that position. And vice versa. That is, that if Cleon Stapleton Simmons had ambitions to be leader of the opposition, the only way that she could be leader of the opposition would be for Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge to signal to His Excellency, Her Excellency, forgive me, that she supports Cleon Stapleton Simmons. The point I'm trying to make here is that it is a classic case of one hand can't clap. See my one hand here. You hear anything? Can't clap. You need two hands. If you want clap. If you want that clapping sound, two hands, one hand can't do it. And that is the reality of the situation. And again, if Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge was really a leader, she would have sat down, she would have got advice, or even if she advised herself, and she would have come to the clear realization that she needs Cleon. Just as Cleon needs her, she needs Cleon. In fact, I would suggest that she needs Cleon more, because clearly as leader of the party, she wants the designation of being leader of the opposition. Now, why is that important? That is important because under our Constitution, it is the leader of the opposition who then signals to the Governor General who the choice is for an opposition senator. And that is important, because a choice of opposition senator is a question of who then will come to the parliament on the opposition benches. I recall that I came on the opposition benches as an opposition senator called by the Honorable Vance Amory of blessed memory. And so some see that, as the CCM did, as an opportunity to bring new blood, to bring fresh blood, to bring new ideas, to bring some excitement perhaps into the parliament. And I believe that is what I did when I entered in 2006. It is in a way the way that one seeks to build for the future. And it has now become clear that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge has decided that she and she alone will determine who that person is. And the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons is saying, no, if you want my support to be leader of the opposition, then my views in relation to who should be senator should be taken into account. Now, I don't know whether Cleon is right or wrong. That is not a matter for me. In fact, I have absolutely nothing to do with NRP and their confusion. But the fact that they are in such public disarray is a matter of concern for all of us, because it goes to the question of our overall good governance agenda. It goes to the question of how the island of Nevis and its politics are seen. It goes to the question of how the parliament is going to function. Because it means that when we go into the budget debates, which God willing will commence on the 20th of February, that we will not have a leader of the opposition and we will not have an opposition senator. You can't have a leader of the opposition unless Cleon signals that she's supporting Janice or vice versa. And you cannot have a senator unless there's a leader of the opposition. So you see the conundrum. And so the parliament, if you will not have been constituted in the way that the Constitution contemplates it should be constituted. Now let me hasten to say that that will not mean that the parliament cannot function, because on the government side we have no confusion. In CCM there's no confusion. CCM has one leader, and that leader has the support of the team. In NRP clearly we have factions which have now exploded into public view. And the reason that I've taken a moment to speak about it is really because NRP was contending to be the government. That's why we had an election on the 12th of December. And had they been elected into government, could you imagine the chaos? Could you imagine when Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, who presumably would have had the support of the others to be premier, said to Cleon, you will be Minister of Tourism. Cleon said, no, not me, no want that. Said to whoever, Dr. Bartlett or J.D. Keynes, you will be Minister of Health. No, not me, no want that. I mean, if you're not careful, somebody would have said, no, I want to be the Premier. I want to be Minister of Finance. And so you see the chaos and the gridlock that could have resulted. Luckily, and through the grace of God, the people of Nevis elected the CCM. And there's no confusion. Because we have never been a party of confusion. We've always been a party which understands that the people come first, and that is our first objective. So now matters are in full view of the public. Janice Daniel Hodge would have given a brief address to say that Cleon Stapleton Simmons, the deputy leader and the elected representative of the people of St. Thomas's Nevis 5, having won the most votes over there in recent history, over 700 votes, because CCM won over 500 votes for the first time in history, and she still prevailed. And so Cleon Stapleton Simmons, having won a by-election and now a general election, that Cleone had been suspended from the NRP. You see how far this thing reached? That she had been suspended. I spoke previously about the fact that Hensley Daniel, the chairman of NRP, had the High Court bailiff take a letter to the deputy leader and elected representative of the people of St. Thomas's. And I thought to myself, this thing has gone far. But now it has gone even further, because according to the leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, Cleone has now been suspended from the party and can say nothing on behalf of the NRP. Now, stop there for a moment. Consider again that we go into Parliament for the most important debate, usually on the annual calendar, which is the budget debate. That starts on the 20th of February. Consider that Cleone Stapleton Simmons cannot speak on behalf of the NRP. So when she stands up in that Parliament, which is her right, given to her, not by NRP, but by the people of St. Thomas's who voted for her, who is she speaking for? It is clear that she's speaking for and on behalf of those who voted for her. So she speaks for and on behalf of the people of St. Thomas's Parish. But she's not speaking for the NRP, for the organization, for any policy prescriptions or positions that are held by the opposition party on the island of Nevis. When Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge rises to her feet in the Parliament to make her maiden presentation, arguably she's speaking for the NRP. But the NRP now has moved from having 2 seats to only having 1, because they have suspended Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Well, Cleone Stapleton Simmons has spoken, and I have decided to do something unusual this evening, because I know this is a wide platform and that people listen, so that those at home and those abroad can get a flavor of what has been happening here now in plain sight as a Nevis Reformation Party, that once great party, that party of our national hero Sir Simeon Daniel, disintegrates, fights, and has perpetrated utter chaos here on the island of Nevis. And so I have decided to play for you the speech by the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. It's a tad lengthy, but I believe that this is an important reflection point in our history, and that it should be on the record and on the mark because of the platform that we have here. And so I'll ask us to play it, and then we'll come back at the end of it.
Fellow citizens, I bid you warmest greetings. I cite fit at this time in my capacity as parliamentary representative for Nevis 5 and member of the opposition to address the nation in the interest of the public on the issue of the impasse as it relates to the appointment of the leader of the opposition and my suspension from the executive of the Nevis Reformation Party. I wish to thank the constituents of Nevis 5 for convincingly re-electing me as your humble servant and parliamentary representative. I am indeed honored, humbled, and grateful for this opportunity to serve you. When you re-elected me on December 12, 2022, as your representative, I pledge that I would serve you with honor, honesty, integrity, and in a principled manner. I continue to do so and shall continue to do so to the best of my ability. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is a multi-party parliamentary democracy which enables its citizens to elect a government of their choice. Citizens and residents on the island of Nevis was given this opportunity on the 12th day of December 2022. Following the December 12 elections, the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP, won 2 of the 5 seats, namely Nevis 4 and Nevis 5. NRP, having secured 2 of the 5 electoral seats, formed the opposition in the Nevis Island Assembly at that time, and thereby creating an occasion for the appointment of a leader of the opposition in accordance with Section 58, subsection 2 of the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. Section 58, subsection 2 states that whenever there is an occasion for the appointment of a leader of the opposition, the Governor-General shall appoint the representative who appears to him or her most likely to command the support of the majority of elected representatives who do not support the government. No representative shall be eligible for appointment unless it appears to the Governor-General that the representative commands the support of at least one other representative. To put this in simple terms, there are 2 members who comprise of the opposition, and one cannot be appointed as leader of the opposition without the support of the other. At all material times, I have indicated that I fully support Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge to be the leader of the opposition. However, I did request that I would like to have a say in selecting the nominated member. I remain resolute that this was not a difficult proposal. Some may argue that the leader of the opposition has the right to nominate a senator. However, the member first has to be appointed as leader of the opposition. This, my dear citizens, is not an absolute right nor entitlement. It requires collaboration, consensus, and compromise. It is a give and take situation. As the elected member for Nevis 5, I am of the firm view that I must always have a voice on behalf of the people who elected me to represent them, and that voice should never be muzzled nor muted in any way. A decision so important as choosing a senator requires a democratic process. Although the St. Kitts and Nevis Constitution gives the leader of the opposition the right to nominate a senator, I am certain that the authors of same did not intend a unilateral approach to the said appointment. I am certain that they must have envisioned a holistic and inclusive approach. After all, St. Kitts and Nevis is a democratic country. I could not, in good conscience, support Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge to be the leader of the opposition before the first sitting of Parliament on January 19, 2023, because of the approach and the stance that she took in relation to the nominated member. Permit me a few minutes to explain the chronological order of events that led to the impasse and events thereafter. I promise to be brief. On December 14, 2022, 2 days after the local election, I reached out to Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge to arrange a meeting to discuss the leader of the opposition and the nominated member. We met that same evening. I indicated to the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge that if she was so inclined to permit me to be the leader of the opposition, as I was in the Parliament for almost 3 years, or if she was inclined to be the leader of the opposition, that I will fully support her, provided that we agreed that I will choose the senator, of course with guidance from herself and the party. On December 28, 2022, during a telephone conversation, Dr. Daniel Hodge stated that she saw no reason why she, as the leader of the party, should not be the leader of the opposition. I informed her that the matter was not in dispute, as I had already given the undertaking that I would support her to be the leader of the opposition as early as December 14, 2022. On December 29, 2022, the matter was raised again during an executive meeting. I reiterated several times during the meeting that I was willing to support Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge as the leader of the opposition, provided that I was able to choose the senator, and of course, with input and guidance from the party. It was clear to me that the members of the executive either did not understand my proposal or were already round-robin on the matter, as the members were adamant that the party leader should be the leader of the opposition. The meeting erupted in total chaos as members were of the view that I was being disloyal to the party. I was accused in the most insulting and inhumane manner of being a traitor and trying to destroy the party. The negative energy in the meeting could not have been a natural consequence of a suggestion made by myself as a deputy leader of the party, which in the circumstances was not unreasonable. The negative energy appeared to mirror the years of resentment towards me by some members of the executive, stemming from the leadership battle in 2020 between Honorable Daniel Hodge and myself. Of course, leading the charge was Mr. Kelvin Daly, the chairman of the St. Paul's constituency group, who by now all could confidently conclude that he is not a fan of myself. I can go further and state openly that from inception of my political career, I was disliked by Kenville Daly for reasons unknown to me. Despite my protest to the chairman, Mr. Henry Daniel, not to put the matter of the leader of the opposition to a vote because the decision to support Honorable Dr. Daniel Hodge could only be made by myself as the other elected member of the opposition, and it was not necessary to do so as the matter was not in dispute. I advised the meeting that a discussion at the executive level on this matter should be merely persuasive. The chairman nevertheless ignored my requests and proceeded to allow members of the executive to vote on the matter. It became clear to me that this was a well-orchestrated plan designed by some members of the executive. I wish to inform the general public that I strongly protested against the executive voting on this matter for several reasons. Firstly, I was concerned that any future reliance on the executive decision of December 29, 2022 to coerce me to support Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge could be deemed as an infringement of my constitutional right under Section 58(2) of the St. Kitts and Nevis Constitution, which afforded me the discretion to offer my support to the other elected member to be the leader of the opposition. Secondly, I was fully aware that no decision of the executive nor the NRP's constitution can bind me as a member in parliament in circumstances where I was exercising my parliamentary duty or function in accordance with Section 58 of the St. Kitts and Nevis Constitution. Further, I was mindful that the St. Kitts and Nevis Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any law or rule that is inconsistent or contradicts the Constitution is void to the extent of the inconsistency. Thirdly, the very same chairman, Mr. Henry Daniel, who was chairing the meeting, was one of the persons listed by the party leader during the meeting as having an interest in being the nominated member or senator. I openly objected to the chairman being appointed as a senator for 1 year merely to qualify him for his pension, as I was of the view that that move will set the party back 50 years, and there were other avenues available to him to get his pension. I also reproved the chairman for not disclosing his interests prior to the meeting and for not recusing himself from chairing the meeting and for casting a vote knowing that he had an interest in being the senator. The glaring conflict was not only unprincipled but wrong in every sense of the word. I was fully aware that the majority of members who voted to endorse Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge as leader of the opposition were unfinancial members of the party and therefore were ineligible to vote during the said meeting, thereby breaching Article 5A of the NRP's Constitution. Therefore, rendering the December 29th decision null and void and of no binding effect, as the chairman did not take any remedial steps during the meeting, immediately thereafter, or to date to rectify the breach. I will revert on this point later in this address. Having received notice that the first sitting of Parliament was scheduled for January 19, 2023, I reached out to Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge to finalize the selection of the senator. We discussed putting a rubric or criteria in place to guide the selection process, which we eventually did. At that time, she also sent me the final list of names that were suggested for the senator, and I observed that an additional name was added to the original 9 names which were disclosed during the December 29th meeting of the executive. We met on Friday, 13th January 2023 to discuss the matter. And at that time, we had narrowed the list down to 2 persons. I recommended Ronaldon Bartlett. Most of you may know him as DJ X-Ray. And Honorable Dr. Daniel Hodge recommended Miss Curlin Merchant. I had no objections to Miss Merchant, save and except that I was of the view that the nominated member should at the very least be a member of the party or be in some way a supporter of the party. I admitted to Honorable Dr. Daniel Hodge that I did not know Ms. Merchant's political allegiance, as I have never seen her around the party, or at least within the past 2 years, nor during the 4 consecutive elections that NRP recently contested. On the other hand, I knew Mr. Ronaldon Bartlett, and I knew him to be an avid supporter of the Nevis Reformation Party for many years. I was of the view that Mr. Bartlett was a good candidate for a senator, as he was a member of the St. Paul's constituency group, and he had shown an interest in being a candidate for Nevis 1. He had also served as the office administrator in the office of the opposition during Mr. Joseph Parry and myself time. I was also of the view that a young male in Parliament complementing the 2 elected females was a good image for the party to show gender balance and equality and diversification of talents. I am not interested in political power. I am for people empowerment, especially for ordinary citizens in this country and those who come from humble beginnings. I saw potential in this young man to be given the opportunity to serve his country and party by being appointed as a senator. We must, as leaders, always pave the way to create opportunities for the young people to become exposed and to develop, especially our young males. Despite the Honorable Dr. Daniel Hodge and our best efforts in trying to choose a senator, we simply could not agree for different reasons. I therefore suggested that the matter should be taken to the executive body for a wider discussion, as I was of the view that a more holistic approach was necessary. During the executive meeting of December 29th, I informed the meeting that if we were unable to decide on a senator within reasonable time, I would have to write to the Governor General, as I was obliged to inform him that I did not support the other elected member to be the leader of the opposition. Otherwise, he would naturally presume that the support is given or commanded. I wrote to the Governor General indicating same on January 17, 2023 at approximately 1:36 p.m. At 2 p.m. on that same day, I received a text message from Honorable Daniel Hodge indicating that I should call her urgently. Then I received another message at 3:35 p.m. from Honorable Daniel Hodge stating that she sent me a correspondence via email and I should sign it if I had no difficulty. I did not see the messages from Daniel Hodge until about 6 p.m. that same evening when I returned to my law office, as I was out of office and I did not get an opportunity to check my messages during the time I was out. I quickly checked my email and retrieved the letter from Daniel Hodge addressed to the Governor General stating that I support her as the member for number 4 to be the leader of the opposition. The letter was signed by Dr. Daniel Hodge and a blank space was provided for my signature. I immediately called Honorable Daniel Hodge and asked her if we had resolved the selection of the senator issue. She stated that she indicated to me that she chose Ms. Merchant to be the senator. I told her that we clearly did not have a meeting of the mind and I couldn't in good conscience support Ms. Merchant to be the senator for reasons that I had previously disclosed. I reiterated that the matter should be taken to the executive of the party for a wider discussion. On January 19, 2023, both Daniel Hodge and myself were sworn in as members of the opposition during the first parliamentary sitting. That same date, known supporters took to social media to express their frustrations. I was publicly maligned and attacked by key supporters of Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge for taking the stance that I took. And the said abuse continues to date without any interference from the party leader or the chairman of the party. On January 20th, 2023, I was served with a letter by the High Court bailiff from the party's chairman, Mr. Henry Daniel, stating that he bring to my attention the decision of the executive and at its meeting on December 29, 2022, to support Honorable Daniel Hodge as the leader of the opposition. The letter stated that I had breached Article 6 of the NRP's Constitution, which states that all members of the party are under a duty to carry out all party decisions and instructions at all times. A copy of the draft letter that Honorable Daniel Hodge wrote to the Governor General was attached, and I was asked to sign the letter and return it to the party's headquarters by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, 25th January 2023. I totally disregard the letter because I was of the firm view that the executive decision was null and void for reasons explained earlier, and the party's constitution had no binding effect on me in executing a parliamentary function or duty. One avid supporter of the Nevis Reformation Party contacted me to inquire whether I was interested in participating in a mediation to resolve the senator issue. I quickly agreed, and a mediation meeting was held on January 29, 2023. We were unable to agree amicably to resolve the senator issue. with a compromise. However, we both agreed that we would look at other persons. I disclosed the names of 2 additional persons during the mediation meeting, whilst Honorable Daniel Hodge requested more time to consider other options. The negotiation process, as far as I was aware, was expected to continue until the matter was resolved, at least prior to the next sitting of Parliament, which was scheduled for February 20th, 2023. I made every attempt to resolve the matter amicably, so that both myself and the other elected member can be comfortable with the choice of the senator. However, Honorable Daniel Hodge, the party chairman, and other members of the executive were busy taking all necessary actions to have me removed from the party. A meeting of the party's General Council was held on January 30th, 2023, to establish a disciplinary committee. The delegates at the meeting voted accordingly, and a 5-member disciplinary committee was established to discipline me as the elected member for Nevis 5 for failing to support the party leader, Honorable Janice Daniel Hodge, to be the leader of the opposition in the Nevis Island Assembly. On February 8, 2023, I received a notice from the General Secretary of the party, Ms. Angelica Elliott, stating that the Executive Committee submitted a complaint to the recently established Disciplinary Committee on February 8, 2023, and in light of that fact, the Executive Committee has taken the decision to suspend me from all matters related to the party pending the outcome of an investigation. I wish to advise the general public that the executive body of the Nevis Reformation Party breached its own party's constitution on December 29th. The decision of the executive was void, as the majority of the members who voted in the said meeting were not financial members of the party, and therefore were not eligible to vote in the said meeting. Additionally, the complaints made by the executive body are false and of no merit. Further, as an elected member of the Parliament and a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis and a justice of the peace, I have a legitimate expectation to natural justice and due process of the law, which I was deprived of by members of the Nevis Reformation Party. The general public is further advised that I intend to exercise every legal remedy available to me under the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that justice is served. To the good people of St. Thomas's Parish, I wish for you to know that it was always my intention to serve you and the people of Nevis in a principled manner and with the highest level of integrity as your area representative. I pledge to do my best to continue to build St. Thomas's Parish and to advocate for changes that will help to enhance your standard of living and provide you with a more comfortable life. I will continue to serve you in the Nevis Island Assembly as an independent member of the opposition. I promise to continue to grow the Lowland Community Foundation, and I look forward to partnering with both government and non-governmental agencies to develop community-centered projects in St. Thomas's. I wish to thank all of you for your outpour of love and support. To every person who called or texted me and who took the time out to visit me to show support during this whole ordeal, I say thank you. To my very strong support base, I really couldn't do this without your love, support, and guidance. Thank you for believing in me even during my darkest moments. To my many advisors, both legal and otherwise, I say thank you for your advice and guidance. To my husband, my family members, and my close friends, and my very special mother dearest, thank you for your love and support. I express profound thanks to my supporters on social media and other forms of media outlet. Thank you for defending me. Last, but certainly not least, I wish to thank God Almighty for giving me the strength and courage to endure. May God continue to bless us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I took the unusual step of playing in its entirety the speech that was broadcast by the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons just yesterday, Valentine's Day. I decided that it was appropriate to play it because, as I said, I think we are at an important point here in the history, the political history of our island. And the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons sought in that speech to lay out some issues and some timelines. And since she's the one in the hot seat, so to speak, she's the one who's in the NRP, I'm not, then one must take her at her word, and there has thus far not been any rebuttal by anyone. What has she indicated? She has indicated a number of things. One, there appears to be a cabal inside the NRP with toxic individuals such as this Dr. Daly, who of CFBC fame. We have people like Hensley Daniel, who a court has found to be null and void. And, of course, that group, it appears, who, according to her, seem to have an issue and an agenda in relation to her and with the party. We have also heard her use the language of null and void in relation to letters she has received and related to decisions that have been made by the executive. And I found that use of language interesting because, of course, the NRP has the dubious distinction of having been found in the person of Hensley Daniel to be null and void by a court of law. It also reveals, I think, some of the inner machinations of that party. She raises the point that an individual, known lawyer here, Miss Curlin Merchant, that she was the person who was proffered by Janice Daniel Hodge as the senator. And she said that she was not aware of Curlin Merchant's politics because she had never seen her anywhere around the NRP, despite the fact that we've had all these elections. All of these are very interesting observations, I feel. She goes on to say something which I feel when I heard it, I had to rewind and listen. And I spoke to a friend and pundit today, and he said that he almost fell off his bed when he heard it. And that is that Hensley Daniel was shortlisted to be the senator, not because Hensley Daniel or the NRP had any interest in serving the people of Nevis or in advancing some cause that was important to the people of Nevis, but rather Hensley Daniel wanted to come back to serve as a senator to collect his pension. You hear what I'm saying? I see Hensley Daniel walking up and down here in the hot sun, say he doing house to house. And I have commented on the gabardine pants and the kick and stab shoes because that is the reality. That is his style. It is what we call retro. But he walking up and down, knocking on people's door, saying that he is and has ideas for a better way for the people of Nevis. I was over in Cherry Gardens, for example, and they said that he kept Cherry Gardens very hot, talking to the voters over there, asking them to vote, and people might have been persuaded, no doubt, that he and Dr. Brantley, when they were going around, begging people for their support and advancing an agenda that they say was for the betterment of the people of St. John's and the people of Nevis, when in reality we're now hearing that all Hensley was looking was pension. Hensley Daniel was putting in the work because he wanted to come back into the house through the back door. Remember, he had the opportunity to come in through the front door as a candidate for the NRP. He squandered that opportunity when the machinations of the party and their agents resulted in his election being declared null and void in 2012, which then resulted in a fresh election in 2013. So Hensley Daniel, we are now learning, was doing what he was doing not for you, not for Nevis, but for himself. But for himself. And the party, the NRP, was prepared to countenance a man coming in to the Parliament of the Nevis Island, the Nevis Island Assembly, coming into that Parliament for the sole purpose of securing his pension. Now, I thought that was a damning revelation coming from the lips of the deputy leader. And here what she said, she was not prepared to support that. That struck me, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm a politician and I go around and I talk to the people of Nevis about how we can better their lives, not ours. I have said time and time again publicly that the NRP has always been all of self and none of thee. We saw it when Roberto Hector was there as leader. Prior to him becoming leader, he was Minister of Lands, and we know what happened in relation to Lands and Hector in Nevis. Brother, sister, father, wife, he himself, land, house and land. That's what his legacy is. We saw Kelvin Daly, who became leader briefly, and what happened at CFBC under his watch when he was there. The question that continues to be asked is, when are we genuinely going to get people in the NRP who are interested in you and not in themselves? That is the question. Because every indication from these group of individuals demonstrate that they are about them. Now, what do the people of St. John's, who Hensley Daniel campaigned so hard to, say he's campaigning for Patricia Bartlett because they want better representation, they want to do better for the people of St. John's? They castigated me, they said all manner of things about me. But guess what? I was never asking anybody to vote for me because I look in pension. Agree with me or disagree with me, like me or dislike me, but I have always sought to do the best that I can for the people of Nevis and for the people of my beloved constituency. Here we have a damning admission coming from the deputy leader of the NRP and the elected representative for Nevis 5 that she went to a meeting chaired by Hensley Daniel, and in that meeting chaired by Hensley Daniel, she came to find out that he had a conflict of interest. He was there to propel the party to a decision that would benefit himself, because you see, Hensley wants his pension. You remember some time ago we talked about those who came and their only objective was to get themselves in the public trough. During the NRP years from 2006 to 2013, some had a straw, some had a hose, some had the whole body in the trough until, Lord of mercy, the trough ran out. Nothing was left. By the time we got in 2013, the trough empty. In fact, we couldn't even find the trough. And you see it all over again. Because as much as you have new faces who claim they are now the leadership of the NRP, you are recognizing from the speech gave by the deputy leader that we just listened to together that in reality it is the same old, The same old khaki pants, except now they're wearing skirts. Same old. No difference. The same old objective of using and abusing the people of Nevis, getting their hands on the government treasury, getting benefits for themselves. Now, had she said that Henry Daniel and Janice Hodge were anxious to position themselves to be in a position to lead cutting-edge legislation in the House to help single mothers, to help poor people, Dr. Bartlett went up and down preaching the word. How many poor people, she said, Nevis had, and St. John's in particular. One would have thought that everybody in St. John's are dead hungry. That's how she portrayed us. But yet she was propping up somebody who had no interest in them. His interest, if the speech is to be believed, is that he would come and serve for a year and a half to get a pension. So I just come in to mark my name and mark the time and collect my pension. Now, who that pension is for? Is it for you? No, the pension is personal. And again, it lays bare that you see them walking up and down, and you say, because I kept wondering, them sure they must have squeezed Hensley foot, you know? Well, Hensley up and down and walking old time gabardine pants there, and them hard kick and stab shoe, walking up and down in the hot sun. Why you do them things there for? Now you see we hear that Hensley had his plan. Hensley wanted pension. And Janice was prepared to assist Hensley to get pension. And Pat was prepared to assist Hensley to get pension. And here the deputy leader is saying, she said, no, Hensley, not you. I want a young man to come. And that is where the ruction starts. So when you hear a lot of them talking, and a lot of them pontificating, you now realize that it's all about personal self-interest. It has nothing to do with Nevis. Nothing to do with the people of Nevis. Personal self-interest. And so I thought that it was important to have that speech played into the record here on the mark. Here we discuss big issues. Now I'm hearing that somebody who I believe Cleon herself has described as kangaroos. I never see a kangaroo yet in my life. But based on what I have heard and read, they hop from here to there and they hop everywhere. And it is true that we have some kangaroos in terms of our politics. Hop in here, hop in there. Some hop off a good thing and hop into a bad thing. Somebody said to me today that some of them were on a beautiful blue ocean liner called CCM with a good captain at the wheel, steady. Even when buffeted by storms, coronavirus and all that, steady hand at the wheel. They jump overboard and they go onto an old rubber dinghy that's taking on water. And guess what? The rubber dinghy not got no captain. And them gone on a rubber dinghy taking on water and them can't swim. So you see the dilemma. So they're up and down now. These kangaroos saying all kinds of things. All kinds of things. I see them cussing the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons. Some of them saying she ain't get this, she ain't get that, it suit her. And I'm just sitting back and I'm smiling. Because at the end of the day, the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons is not my friend. I have respect for her, but she's not my friend. She's not my confidant. But I will say she has achieved one thing that many who are talking will never achieve. She has contested and won a seat here on the island of Nevis. I want that to sink in. She has contested and won a seat in the island of Nevis, not once but twice. And it tells you therefore that whatever our views on her might be, that the people of St. Thomas's have said that she is their chosen one. Let me tell you something. Some of them who are talking will never get their name on a ballot paper. That's why some of them vex. It ain't gonna happen. And if they get their name on a ballot paper, they will never be elected on this island of Nevis. You hear what I tell you? And some of them who are talking put their name on a ballot paper and were comprehensively rejected by the people of Nevis. So you have three types. Them who want to run and nobody want them to run. Them who might run but them can't win. And them who don't run and tired lose. And they are disgruntled and unhappy and vexed with anybody who has demonstrated that they can run and win. And so they're now doing what NRP does best. You know what they're doing? Or is Mark Brantley who is somehow involved in this, and is Mark Brantley who is engaged in mashing up the NRP. Mark Brantley, have I attended any of the NRP executive meetings? Have I engaged in any way, shape or form with NRP and their confusion? Because I will tell you, if I were asked, I would have said to them, I will go behind closed doors and work out all your problems. And not allow this world WrestleMania that we are seeing to occur in the public domain. And I will say something further tonight. A lot of them keep rushing down to St. Kitts to get on radio stations down there. I'm not sure why. But even if it is that they feel that those radio stations have some reach across the Federation and the world, and they're using it as a platform, a lot of them seem to feel that these commentators on these radio stations, one, have their best interests at heart, and two, can influence somebody in Nevis. I'm telling you, and let me say so clearly tonight, that a lot of these commentators, and I hear snippets from time to time, they don't love NRP. They hate Mark Brantley. And there is a fundamental difference. Secondly, I will say that not a soul in Nevis these commentators can move. They can't move the needle. So when you hear a lot of them coming and they're dressing it up as punditry, some of them even come to them name export. Export at what? At what? Somebody sent me some commentary the other day coming from some self-described expert saying that basically that my time is over and Mark Brantley needs to go, that my star is waning, and all the negatives in the world. I heard some comment and saying that Cleon Stapleton Simmons is the worst thing, and Cleon Stapleton Simmons has killed her own political career. And when the clip was sent to me, I sat back and I smiled and I said, there are some who are prepared to sell their opinion, or better yet, to frame that opinion based on who is paying them. And so their expertise, to the extent that one could abuse the English language, is really bought and paid for, based on nothing other than whatever political agenda they've been paid to promote. And so we need to start to understand the reality of what we're dealing with here on this island, and to say to all of us, because at the end of the day we are all Nevision. NRP, CCM support, NRP support, we are Nevisions. And you have some people who are seeking to say that they're supporting NRP and are creating more damage to the political environment in Nevis than they're helping. And it is not that I'm offering advice, because frankly, NRP can't beat CCM. You know, ifs, ands, buts, and maybes, and I don't say so from a position of arrogance, I say so from a position of empirical fact. Because even in the election of December 12th, when they say that CCM was at its weakest, They say we were damaged goods. They still could not beat the CCM. Couldn't. That is why they manufacture these election petitions. You know why? Because they recognize that they threw everything that they had. They spent every penny that they could raise against the CCM. And at the end of the day, the Concerned Citizens Movement is still standing as the government of the island of Nevis. Well, how do you think Pat feel? Because Pat now looking on and Pat saying, by the next election, I'm nearly 70. So this really was my last best chance. Janice is looking on and saying, by the next election, I'm nearly 70. This was really my last best chance. That's really what's going on. So you have a certain level of desperation. And when people are desperate, any Tom, Dick or Harry, any charlatan, any kangaroo who jump up, you know the kangaroo that jump? That's what I see on TV. And jump up and say, look me here, look me here. I'm a kangaroo, I used to be blue, now I'm green. They latch on to them. And they say, yes, come. Not realizing that they're no longer blue for a reason, you know. I would have shed some dead weight along the way and removed them because they were doing more damage to the CCM than good. You gobble them up because you feel that anybody who comes and says they don't like Mark, that must be your friend. And you don't recognize that some people, you better leave them where you see them because they are where they are for a reason. Leave them where you see them because they are where they are for a reason. And if you allow them into your midst and into your bosom and you allow them to be out there chatting for you, they have their own agenda which is not necessarily an agenda which is either good for party or good for country. And we have to be mindful of these realities. And that is why I look on sometimes and I smile. This morning I sat outside my house, reflecting on my day ahead, asking, as I often do, for God's guidance, and saying, here I am having to waste a whole day in court. Over what? You think Dr. Patricia Bartley don't know she lose the election? Of course she does. You think J.D. Keynes don't know she lost the election? Of course she does. So what really are we in court over? Posturing. People pumping them up, telling them, oh, y'all must do this and y'all must do that because you're going to need to get rid of them. Well, if the people wanted to get rid of us, the people would have voted differently. So here now come the paid pundits. I believe that certain language might not be entirely appropriate on one radio. So I will say that they are paid ladies and gentlemen of the night. Available to the highest bidder. And they now come to say that Alexis lose, he must get out the race, Mark this, he must get out, all of them must go, them old. Imagine me, a young fella. I look at myself the other day, I say, oh my goodness, it looks like you're getting younger. Better if I could go and dye my beard like some of them doing. Imagine that. Black beard. And so all of a sudden you're old, you must go sit down. That's what they're telling us. While telling people who 10 years older than us that you're the future. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So I am saying, ladies and gentlemen, that this that we're seeing here is not good for Nevis. Got a message tonight from a friend in Canada. And he said that whilst on some level what is happening in the NRP is comical, he's also ashamed. And I think that is what sums it up. And that's why I thought tonight I would come and spend a few moments talking about it. While to some it is comical, to those who love Nevis, they feel ashamed. because all of us can reflect with some degree of pride that there was once a party called the Nevis Reformation Party, a party of Simeon Daniel and Ivor Stevens, that was committed to the people of Nevis, not to pension, not to self, but to us. And that party, ladies and gentlemen, is no more. May it rest in peace. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 9. We're now going to open the lines 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. If you're out there and you want to make a call, then those are the numbers to call. I hope for those who are online, make your comments, leave your comments. I tend to go home at nights and look at the comments and see what it is people are saying. Some choose to curse and carry on, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, let us engage, because this is Nevis and Nevis is ours. This is what we are here for, to ensure that we have the best that is available to this island that we all love and that we all call home. Let's go back to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Mark, good evening to you. This is Carlton. How are you doing?
Good evening to you, my brother. I'm well.
Yeah, it's a pity I heard you say you was outside your place this morning thinking of a wasted day. Now, let me ask you a question, because I heard so today, but I'm not sure. The young lady, Cleon Stapleton, is someone who Joseph Parry had recommended?
Yes, apparently she was handpicked by Joseph Parry, and she replaced Joseph Parry as the constituency representative for the good people of St. Thomas's.
Okay, the reason why I say that to you is because I don't think enough reflection had been done in the high officials in NRP respecting Joseph Parry, because he chose that lady. They have problems inside. I wonder if they discuss with him and ask him, with his skills and the amount of time that he spent as leader, to just quietly settle that inside. You know, Mark, today I was in my store reflecting on this when I heard the lady this morning. A guy came and played it for me. And, you know, I was thinking on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of respect for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. I'll tell you why, Mark, quickly. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party had been going through a lot of problems for many, many years while they were solving them inside, until some people couldn't take it anymore. Now, I believe this is the road that the NRP should have taken. But you know what scared me this morning when the guy played the tape for me with Cleon, just as I came off the 400-meter track down here next to me, is when she mentioned something about Hensley Daniel. Mark, it pained me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Let's read something quickly from the Bible, 1 Timothy 6, 9 and 10 for the congregation, please. However, those who are determined to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and many senseless and hurtful decisions that plunge men into destruction. For the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things, and by reaching out for this love, some have been led astray from the faith and have stabbed themselves all over with many pains. Mark, I am disappointed. You know why? Those young ladies who formed the Nevis Reformation Party and ran in the election, I had no problem with them. But the question I want to ask again tonight, like I asked 2 weeks ago, what if they had won? It scared me, because I love Nevis. I love Nevis just like any division who born up there, and I am concerned. It's not about just my love for CCM, you know. It's my love for Nevis, and if division change CCM one day, I will be backing whoever. But Mark, this is my problem in Nevis. The executive, those in high position, did not do a good job pertaining to this lady. They did injustice to her. And you know what made me feel good about her? She stood up, strong. Many other people would have just lied down flat. And I want to say to her, I will support her financially if she fight against them if it reach a court matter. So she can take my number, 6610037. I'll send a check up for if she have legal fees to fight them, because it's injustice. And let me tell you something, I want to go to give other people a chance, Mark. In this country, I am going to disassociate myself from certain political issues and stupid DJs and radio like you were mentioning. And I don't want to use certain words because Born Radio has a standard that is good for this country and it must stay. Anybody who is seeking justice, DuPont is on their side, even if I hate you. So this young lady, I don't know her, I've never seen her before, but the broadcast from her this morning was so profound, Mark. It helped me to work better in my store today. She's amazing. I don't know who put the speech together, but I think I heard her say she's a lawyer, so she has the ability to form a speech like that. But my problem is the injustice to her, and I wonder if they had the opportunity to consult Joseph Barry, who think well of her and wanted to see her perform. I had many other things to say, Mark, but one of the things about me with radio programs, I like to hear other people. Mark, have a good night, and I'm going to keep praying for you all. I keep praying for you all, the government, that you all will perform and work hard for the people of Nevis. Notice what I say, the people of Nevis. Have a good evening. I'll continue to listen.
Thank you very much, my brother. As always, informative and to the point, and I'm grateful for your views. Always welcome here on this show. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? Okay, caller, we're asking you to try again. 469-1616, 469-1700. Let's try this line. No? Okay, callers, please be patient with us and continue to try to get in if you want to be a part of the show. We are, of course, accepting your views. We have a number of issues on the table here. The strikeout of the election petitions heard today in the High Court. We await a judgment on February 27th. We have the budget that is to be read on February 20th, and we have, of course, this brouhaha, public mashup of the Nevis Reformation Party. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mr. Brantley, how you doing, my brother? Red Cap here.
Hey, what's up, brother? What's up?
Oh, yeah, boy, Mark, Saturday I was looking at the airport and stuff, and then Nibijan was right out. And then Nibijan asked me a question, and he said, what do you think about that girl? I'm trying to say, boy, I think she's going to like the party. I realize sometimes you come in this party or anything's going wrong. He said to me, this lady have not given the people of Nevis a good explanation, I mean, she was in the Virgin Islands, he explained to me. I said, I'm not something like that. He said, something happened when she was there with some pieces broken. And so he said he don't think that she did enough explaining to the people of Nevis. He thinks that the explaining could have been up to now people not really understanding what's really going on. And she's just saying that she was not in anything and whatnot. But if you work in a place and other people getting problems and you was at the same place, people can be wondering what's going on. I mean, that's just human nature. So this lady here need to come to the people of Nevis. Now we're seeing that she's a real problem, actually. She need to come and tell the people then what's really going on, what transpired when she was overseas and what happened with whatever company she was working with. So, I mean, I see so much a problem, actually. From the time this lady, NRP never had all these problems. As soon as this lady take leader of this party, I don't know, it's like the devil wake up. It seems like that's what's really going on and stuff. So, I believe she still needs to come to people of News and explain to them about what transpired there. But the other thing is, I said last, 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks actually, I explained this actually. She's the phone people to me, can we remember or not? She was trying to talk about, this young answer that she was pushing up in the air, high. So, how come all of a sudden she's so against her? She said that she does that way, but even when she doesn't agree and she wants, it seems to me that she wants to get away, and if she don't get away, just shove down the barrel. Shove it down. Shove down the ladder, shove down the barrel. Whatever happened. But it doesn't work like that. This lady still all the people that have news explanation about when she was living overseas and what transpired over there with the company and other people, what they get in public. She needs to come. And it's sure, not only that, but it's sure that the lady is a problem. Because the Norwegian fellow who was going out on the plane, he said to me, boy, people should never, ever. I said, well, I said, he said, oh, you were the one who called in? I said, yes, I was the same one. People, this is a message. People should never, she should never be left in this at no time at all. Because I show you that she just about power, she wants it, and she wants it now. That's what I think that she wants it, and she wants it now. That's correct, and she wants it now. So we need to get that sort out and people in the individual need to just know it should not be listed over there. And I want to show everybody for me, this is a good partner, so show them up for me. Give thanks.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your views. You were a little muffled at times, but I hope people were able to understand what it is you were saying. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, 860 on your AM dial. And some of us are viewing and taking part of our live broadcasts on Facebook and on YouTube. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're On the Mark. Hello? Callers, we seem to be having a bit of a problem, so please, when you call in, be patient with us. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's try again. Good evening, you're On the Mark. Hello?
On the Mark.
Yes, please listen to the phone, not to your radio or your internet.
Good evening. Why these people walking around with this big name named doctors? Yeah. Why do people walking around with the name doctor, this and doctor that causes so much problem in the island? Anyway, that's all you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, they're doctors because they have studied. I believe that Dr. Bartlett would have studied veterinary medicine, so she's a doctor of, we say colloquially, animal doctor, but really she's a doctor of veterinary medicine. And then Dr. Janice Hodge, I'm not sure, I think she did some PhD in something to do with the environment, so she would have earned that designation, which is an academic designation. So I don't think that it has anything called associated with the doctor. It has really to do with people and their attitudes and what it is they have come to public life for. I keep saying that politics isn't for all of us. It is not. It is a very thankless, sometimes a very difficult thing. And if you come and your objective in coming is not about the people, but about yourself. And that is why I go back to what I said. When I heard the speech, I had to rewind and listen again. That the reason that Janice Daniel wants Hensley and the reason that Hensley wanted to be there was so Hensley could secure his pension. Nothing about you. Nothing about me. Nothing about Nevis. Secure his pension. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're On the Mark. Lost that caller. Let's try again. Caller, good evening, you're On the Mark.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Good to hear your voice. How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. I just want to give condolences to you and the family. We know, she was a great lady. So on the behalf of my family to your family, my condolences. And being a great leader is an awesome thing. Just because I feel leaders should have self-awareness, courage, respect, empathy, integrity, and gratitude. Communicating and delegating should be very effective ways leaders can promote self-awareness, because the better we understand ourselves, it's a good thing, because we will be able to recognize the road that's ahead of us. You are and the team are doing an amazing job. Continue to do so, and God will just blessing.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you as always for your calls and for your very, very excellent comments and advice. I really do appreciate it, and I continue to value very much these calls. I know the voice, so I know it is coming from a place that I hope isn't too cold at this point in time, and so thank you for that. We're taking your calls. It is 20 minutes to. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're On the Mark.
You're the boss.
Yes, good evening.
I want to know, when you are foreign affairs and things, you're not only foreign affairs for CCM, you're foreign affairs for the whole island, NRP and CCM, both St. Kitts and Nevis. So what is their problem? They should try to come up to your standard.
Well, when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, I was there for 7 years, and I believe I did the best that I could. I think that our country benefited considerably. The record is there.
Come up to your standard.
Right.
Stop trying to fight down.
Well,
You're the big man of the area. You know, just for CCM and people outside who so appreciate what you're doing for the island of St. Kitts and Nevis. Telling people go and thing and stop calling for doctors and things.
okay.
Anyway,
All right.
good night.
Well, thank you for the observation. As I said, when I was foreign minister, I was there for 7 years, and I did the best that I could because I took the role seriously. And I think we had some signal achievements. In fact, I was reflecting just recently that a number of divisions who had been hitherto locked out of the Foreign Service were empowered. We, for the first time, got ambassadors from Nevis. They were hitherto locked out. We placed people in New York, we placed people in Washington, D.C., we placed people in Dubai, we placed people in London, we placed people in Canada. We hired people at home. We bought a building in Washington, D.C., which will house the St. Kitts Nevis Embassy there. For the first time, we opened our High Commission in Ottawa for the very first time under my watch. And we expanded the range. In fact, just today I got a message saying that the Foreign Minister of Serbia has sent his regards and is saying how he so misses the interaction that we had. So it was something that we treated seriously, and we had a number of successes. Vaccines coming from the United States. We were the ones who raised that issue for the first time on behalf of the region to say to America, you benefited Canada and Mexico. What about us, your third border? And the White House eventually responded positively. We negotiated vaccines with the Modi government of India. And St. Kitts and Nevis was on a particular path. I'm hopeful that they will continue on that path. We took our passport to #1 in the region in terms of number of countries that we can access without a visa. We negotiated with the United States the fact that you can now get a visa without going there. If you've had one, you can now apply online. We negotiated with Canada. In fact, we're the ones who introduced the idea that the Canadians should come to us to collect biometrics rather than requiring our people to have to travel to Barbados or to Trinidad. All of these, I think, were matters that we were successful at. And so the record is there. And it's for me now important that whoever is there, and the person now of Dr. Douglas, but whoever is there, that it should continue that rich tradition of interaction in terms of our diplomacy. Let's go back to the phones. We have 20 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark.
In terms of our diplomacy.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, Dr. Sheriff Gabardine Kick and Stab. Deuteronomy 31, verse 5 and 6. And the Lord shall give them up before your face, that he may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy God, he it is that doeth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Good night to Shia over there in Jessup. I hope she's doing okay. Mark, clear speech is good, and people need to leave people alone. You have a wonderful night, and you know Cutie always loves you. Bye.
Well, I love you too, and thank you so much for your scripture. Thank you for your call. Thank you for the support all these years. I have been doing this show for a long time, and you've been here with me the whole time. So thank you very much. We have about 19 minutes. We're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Listen to me. This lady who says is your family. Where is your husband? You here not fighting with your family. You're fighting with a whole island, and not only a whole island, 2 islands, St. Kitts Nevis, and the whole Federation. What are you talking about? Anyway, still.
All right. Not sure the relevance of husbands and all of that, caller, but thank you for your comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taking your comments on 869-469-1616 and 1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening. Good evening, Brother Mark. How are you?
Good evening to you. I'm well, thank you.
Okay, good. I want to mark with a scripture here quickly.
Sure.
For me to establish what I want to establish here. And the scripture is taken from Romans chapter 13, 1 and 2. And it says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. And now, Mark, the reason why I read this, because they got some fellas out there, they might play God, and as if they're the ones who determine who win and who lose. And so I hope, because I know my listener, there's one they call some Marisha, keep mentioning your name, and he play clips from on the mark, and then you won't have him out. Anyway, he's in mouth, he can say what he want. But Mark, I want to tell you this: when the Bible says here, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. The authorities here speak to you, Mark, as the Premier of Nevis. The authorities here, Mark, speak to Dr. Jew as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts. So I want them to notice that you are being appointed by God. You can say appointed, you can say ordained, or instituted by God. God put you there, Mark. God put you there. And some time ago I said to you, God determined who win the election. He's the one who determined that. And so when all them and they tax your host, and you got to go, or you this, you that. God already determined, Mark, you're going to win the election. You're going to govern Nevis for the next 5 years. And he put you there. And so if they want to get vexed with people, tell them to get back to God. God used the people of Nevis to elect. Yes, CCM lose some votes, but that is besides the point. The point is, God put you there to govern the country. You see, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. God, Mark, I wanted to write them down. Romans 13, 1. You have been appointed by God. And so I'm saying to you, Brother Mark, you govern the country for the next 5 years. And God is expected to do the well. If he decides that next year somebody from Inapi going to win, he will decide that. And so, let them, jump up and say what they feel like. They can't touch you. Why? Because God put you there. I understand the language of this text here. Romans 13, 1 and 2. Especially 1, I understand the language. Those authorities that exist, God appointed them. God bless you, Mark, and have a blessed night.
Thank you very much, and I certainly do appreciate it. And you mentioned one individual who you say is always calling my name. You would be surprised to know I have no relationship with this person. I have no clue who they are. During some election cycle ago, they kept sending messages and calling, want me to come on some show. And I said, well, why would it why would I come on a show that you're having that nobody knows about when I have a platform that I use right here on Vaughan Radio that has been a go-to platform for the last 15 years? And so I meant no disrespect, but as far as I'm concerned, there was no need for me to engage because, you know, I have this platform at On the Mark. If people want to listen to me and want to engage with me, then I have a platform here. I don't know if that caused some angst, because it seems to me that a lot of these things are driven by ego. You know, people get very egotistical. And then I started to hear pronouncements about them going to decide who get in Nevis. And it made me laugh because I'm saying, who one martel, as the old people here would say, them can convince in Nevis? One. So they're just chatting, and then part of that chatting, and that is my warning to the NRP. They are causing damage. They're not helping. They're causing damage because they are positioning themselves as if somehow they care. Somehow they have some capacity to influence anything in Nevis, when in reality they don't. And because they have whatever little vexes they have with me, and I don't know why, because I live on me and they live on them, so I don't know why they vex with me. Right? They should be worried about other things, like whether or not they could find a job, because I find if you're living in big countries and you remain unemployed, something wrong with you. Something has to be wrong with you. And so sitting in a basement somewhere, sitting in some little room somewhere, and continuing to postulate and pontificate as if the people of Nevis actually hold you in some regard. I think that is the difficulty that I keep having. So I really don't pay any attention, caller, because as far as I'm concerned, it is important to ignore the noise. And some of them, with all due respect, that's all they're doing is making noise. So if you say that some of these pundits and self-proclaimed, I think they call him used car salesmen, or some call him snake oil salesmen, whatever it is, that they like to take extracts from my show, and well, that's fine. It means that they're listening. It means that they're paying attention. And that is a good thing, because that's what you do. When President Biden was speaking in the State of the Union, we listen. When big people speak, we listen. We don't listen to people who really can't influence and ain't making no sense. Because at the end of the day, this chatter, mark, what is the relevance? It's almost as if by calling my name, some feel that they're going to get a forward, as the young people say. They're going to reach some place because they're calling my name, and create this illusion that I have issues with them, when in fact I don't know them. I see them, I don't see them, it makes no difference to me, because they're not a part in any way, shape or form of what I do from day to day. And so we have to be cognizant that some of these people are looking for a little fame. They want people to know their name, and they want most of all for me to notice them. I'm too busy taking care of the people of Nevis to waste time. You hear me? They say you don't fire shot at Parahawk. That is the reality. You don't waste your powder. You keep that powder for what matters. And in politics, who matter? The people that you serve. The island of Nevis is what matters most to me. Let me go back to the phones. 10 minutes to go. Please call back 469-1616, 469-1700. Let's go. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, Honorable Mark.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, Honorable Mark.
Good evening to you.
Yes, good evening.
Yes.
Yes, I listen to you, but NRP, I might join back together, because I want some sink it, and now I was in the water with I want please to take back the representative, because I know she don't work now. I am taking somebody who don't work yet. So please to take back the lady, because she work hard to win the CEO. So please to take her back. And Mark, you well said a handful, but thank you. But any advice, you're supposed to be able to help her too, because RI is the same Nevis Island. Tell you well, hello, and have a good night. Take care.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the call. I haven't heard your voice in some time. I trust and hope you had a good Valentine's Day. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Ma, good evening again.
Yes, brother.
The young lady who called you just now, she's such a sweet woman. Even if she'll argue tonight, she ain't got nothing against you, eh? Yeah, the woman, she's special. Mark, I want the people all over the world to concentrate on the lady's speech again. They have to listen it over and over again. I'm going to, if God spare my life tomorrow, I will listen it when I come from training again while I eating my breakfast. About 6 or 7 times in that speech, the lady showed her maturity in compromising, willing to work things out, and at no time she had gotten things in her favor. Well, Mark, let's look at life from a human standpoint. I support you. You can support me. If I say I give you leader of the opposition, it should be very easy for you to say to me, okay, let's sit down nice. I want to choose the senator, but let's do it soberly. These is the type of things I can understand about our country. We don't really love each other. We hating each other, but playing like we love one another. Now, Mark, I want to ask you something as a man in politics, in government. What if you all win the case in court, and this lady stands alone in parliament? Would they be able to have an opposition leader?
So the answer is no, there will be no opposition leader, because to be opposition leader, the Constitution at Section 58 is clear that that person must have the support of at least one other person who does not support the government.
No, I know you're not here to be back in NRP, but you're the type of person who I believe still should be around in politics in this country or to educate our people. But Mark, let me ask you a nice little neat question to help younger one. Don't you think it was fair play that if she decided to give the lady leader, that was never in question? Wouldn't it be nice if they had sat down and she agreed to give her the opportunity to choose the senator? Or I'm wrong?
Well, I think like with every party, and let me explain the process. I don't know what NRP does. I can tell you what CCM does.
Please help me.
So CCM would have won the 3 seats, and on the basis we would form the government, we also have the right to appoint 2 senators to sit on the government benches, and we would have had a discussion. So every person within the party would have had the opportunity within the executive to give their views and give their opinions, because it is and has to be a democratic process. It cannot be that because I have the right as leader, I simply come in and announce this is who it's going to be. So part of leadership is understanding that you have to take on board, and that is why from the inception that I have said this, what we are seeing playing out here is a failure of leadership, because you and I, caller, should never have known that there was even any discussion on the inside, because by the time we would have heard that so and so is the leader and so is the senator. And so the process has to be a process where we have dialogue. That is what we do in CCM. What I am detecting from what is being said is that this leader of NRP is saying is my way or the highway. So I will be the one to make all the decisions, and I will be the one to say what is going to happen. And it appears that the deputy leader, if her speech is to be accepted, is saying, no, I want a seat, people voted for me. In fact, she has more political experience than the leader. She has won her seat now twice. She has been in parliament longer than the leader. So she is saying that on behalf of my constituents, I should be a part of the discussion and the decision making. And it seems like the leader is saying, no, I name leader, so I will make all the decisions. That seems to be, if I'm understanding it correctly, where the rubber meets the road. And there is a word in the English language for that. You know what the word is?
Tell me, Mark.
Dictator.
Okay. Last before I go, Mark,
yes.
Thank you for the education, because when I ask you these pertinent questions, the younger one will learn too, you know. Do you know the amount of money that was spent in St. Kitts to try to bring you down? I know about it. I know about it.
Yeah.
I, Carlton Elroy Emmanuel Rastafari without locks. Millions of dollars were spent in St. Kitts to try to bring you down. You remember the scripture the guy read for you from Romans?
Yes.
God allow you to be there. I know about that. He didn't put you there. Get that straight. He allow you to be there as leader. He allow it to be. But Mark, listen to me. Please help me. Don't bow out to politics yet. Because in my humble assessment, I finish with a lot of politicians. You seem to be still the bright spark in spite of all the foolishness we're hearing down here on radio. Sometimes when people come and play little clips for me, I wish I could have thrown the radio station in the ocean. The load of stupidity I hear down here about a man like you. A man who don't have to be in politics. A man could live a comfortable, relaxed life, making any amount of money from your skills. Have a wonderful evening and continue to pray for you. Bye.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your prayers. I certainly appreciate it. And thank you for the encouragement. I'm aware that a lot was spent to get rid of me, to muzzle me, to try and get me out of politics. But I have always said that my strength comes from the people and by the grace of God. And once that is the situation, I don't care how much money they spend in St. Kitts. I don't care how much money. Election day, December 12th, cash money came over on the boat. You hear me, Mr. Dupont? Cash money came over. And it came over in an effort to unseat the CCM. And here we are, still standing. That is the work of God and the people of Nevis. And that is what I keep saying. So the scripture that was read is true and accurate, the word of God, because it is through him and in him and because of him that we are here. And who God bless, no man curse. If it were left up to others, my career would have been brutish and short. It would have been over a long time ago. But through the grace of God and the will of the people, here I still stand, and here my party still stands. And we will continue to serve to the best of our ability. We have never said that we are perfect or we get everything right, because only Jesus was perfect. But what we are saying is that we are perfectly in love with this island of Nevis and with the people of Nevis. And we'll continue to serve them to the best of our ability. And when we serve federally, we also serve the people of St. Kitts to the best of our ability. That's why I took some time to point out the undeniable record in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let me take this final call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. That call is gone. Caller, I thought I could have given you 2 minutes, but you have left us. And I do have 2 minutes left. 869. Well, the band has struck up. It looks like there's somebody here. Let me see what this caller is saying. Caller, you're our last caller. Good evening. Hello? Hello, caller?
They can't stop you, because you name me the Bible. Matthew. Let him know that. Good night.
Alright. Yes, I'm not only in the Bible, I'm in the New Testament. You know? So I'm very happy to be there. The New Testament, because the New Testament came, if I understand it, after Christ came. So, new rules, new laws, New Testament, and Mark is right there. That perhaps is a good point at which to end the show. Again, for those who mourn, my condolences. For those who are celebrating, like my brother Jerry, happy birthday again, brother. I wish you all the best tomorrow. And the issues are here. I hope that I've done justice to them, and I'm hopeful that this show tonight, even by the critics, they will understand that what we want is better for Nevis. What we want is better for Nevis. I am not seeing this as some comedy show. The politics in Nevis should be about representing Nevis and representing divisions, not about who trying to secure their pension. That is not what our politics should be about. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. God bless you. And please listen to this show tomorrow again, right here and on the mark at 1 p.m. Just one last word before I go. That KPA would have had a wonderful ceremony this evening at the Van Sam International Airport. We now have direct flights once a day and twice on Sundays from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands and to parts onwards. So, looking forward to certainly doing what we can to continue to build our little island, this place that we love, this land that we love. Good evening, have a good night, God bless you, and listen again tomorrow at 1 p.m.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the